Hi, it's Tom Cheswick, professional photographer and retouch artist, and today we're going to do part 2 using ON1 Photo Raw. And in part 1, let's just go back real quick, we did the extraction. So we had an image on a green screen. We used the tools, the quick mask and line mask tools, to make an extraction. And then we had a little green edge around our subject, and that's when we went back and we used the refine brush. And we also used the blur mask tool. We talked about the chisel mask tool, but we didn't actually use it for this image. Today, this is where the magic happens. We're going to be making the finished composite. And this is combining the subject with a cool background. And we're going to change it also from a vertical layout to a horizontal layout. And we'll do that by using the move and the crop tools. One thing with the composites is to make it believable. And the way that we're going to do that is to make sure the background, the light in the background, is the same as the light on the subject. And then we'll tie it all together by combining the two images and adding in effects to it. So let's hop in and get to work. Okay, so we're going to take our image and open it up in layers. Perfect. Okay, so we notice again that we're working on a vertical image, and we know we want the finished composition to be horizontal. So in this case, we'll use the crop tool. And if it happens to come up like this, just hit the original ratio. And all we need to do is to rotate it. Okay, so perfect. Everything looks great. We'll hit apply. We do have a small problem. It looks like she was knocked out and she's on her back. So the way that we're going to change that is to go into move. And on this, it's kind of like transform in Photoshop, but with a lot more options. So we're going to rotate her. We're going to move her to kind of where we want her. We could make her larger or smaller using the scale. In this case, I kind of like the size for this. But we can also add to rotation. And this kind of adds a little dramatic angle to it, a little dynamic angle. So we'll just tilt her a little bit forward. She's kind of leaning into the image. I'm going to hit apply. One thing I love about ON1 Photo Raw is all the extra bonuses that they give to you. In ON1 Extras, if you go into that folder, you'll find 3 other folders. One of them is backgrounds, and there's a ton of backgrounds with studio backdrops, outside shots, skies if you're working on landscapes. We're going to choose the inside, and I like this image, so I'm going to double click on it. And it's important to add it as a layer because we're doing a composition. It brings it in here. Under the move section, you can fill the image just by clicking on fill canvas, and it aligns it correctly. We'll hit apply. So now one of the reasons I selected this image, we'll drag it below and come up to our subject, is because of the light coming from the background. And what makes that believable is that's how I lit our subject. There's a highlight on the edges of her skin, and that looks like it's being lit from the background. The one thing that doesn't work for this image is the subject is being lit from light coming from the right. So we have a highlight side, we have a shadow side. On the background, the light's coming from the opposite direction. And the way that it's real easy to notice this is on this tire. And this is why a lot of composites look fake, is we have light coming from the left, and we have the shadow side here. So light, dark. It's the opposite of what's going on here, but it's easy to fix. All we have to do is go back. Again, using our move tool, we can flip the background. We could flip the subject, but I prefer in most cases to flip the background. Okay, so once we did that, we still have the light coming from the back, causing that highlight on her skin edge. And now the light's coming from the same direction, so that's a good match. We're going to select the composite. We'll apply this change, select the composite. Then what I'd like to do before we go into effects is to create a new stamped layer. Okay, now if we take this into effects just like this, we're going to see actually the entire image. So let's do that just so you can see what happens. And it's fine to work on it like that. So we have the entire image. If this part bothers you, instead just cancel out of here. And on our composite image, go into crop and just hit apply. So basically that trims the image. So now when we go into effects, it's just the image that we were reviewing before. So to tie this together, there's lots of different ways. I kind of liked something a little bit urban looking, something grungy, something with texture. So there are some setups here. Could do dark and gritty, something like that looks nice. But for me that was a little bit too dark. I'm going to come in and we'll take a look at bleach bypass. And Omaha Beach looks pretty nice. There's a little bit of a green tint, and that's caused down here. I'm not a great fan of that, so I might reduce it a little bit. So that's another possibility. Let's go back, and I also love dynamic contrast. And for this, there's one that I love, is the grunge contrast. Hit there, and I like it because this one's keeping her pretty well lit as well. But again, it ties in the background with their subject. So once we're done, click done. It will send it to layers, and at that point, if we're happy with everything, we can save, or if we want to do some more retouching, we have all of our tools here as well. But for me, this image is perfect just like this, so I'm going to hit save, and that is today's tutorial. Thank you for listening for part 2.